15 minutes because former Prime Minister Netanyahu will be arriving here to take this stage from us at exactly 4 o'clock, I understand. I will attempt to be brief in my opening remarks. I will present to you all the speakers at once, and then they will come up to their stage in turn after I present them. First, I have to apologize for one change from the program. If you notice, there were originally going to be 4 guests on today's panel. Professor Eugene Kontorovich of Northwestern University could not appear. He unfortunately has a herniated disc and is taking care of that right now in Chicago. In his honor, so that he can follow what I'm saying on the web broadcast, I'm speaking in English right now. Now, as I'm an academic and I feel that everything I have to say is extremely important, I'm going to not abbreviate my remarks and just speak really quickly. So I will try to keep them to a minimum so that I can turn over the stage to our guests. Let me just give you a very brief explanation of what this panel is intended to be about. I have to say that this is was a difficult topic for me to get my mind around. The legal questions of legitimacy of the State of Israel, for the simple reason that there is no such legal question. There is no such thing in international law as an illegitimate state. There are only states and not states. If an entity has people, a territory, government, the capacity to carry on foreign relations, according to some, if it's recognized, according to some, if it declares itself as such, if it has these ingredients, it's a state. Israel has these ingredients, therefore it is a state. End of question, nothing interesting to say. So we should go home. Now, there are some interesting historical questions, how it came to be that Israel developed all these ingredients, and we spoke about that in the last panel. We heard some of the discussion of the history of the State of Israel and the development of its borders, but we should understand that aside from the question of its borders, this history is largely irrelevant. Most states were not preceded by a General Assembly or other UN vote endorsing its creation. If the General Assembly had not voted in 1947 to recommend dividing the Mandate of Palestine into Jewish and Arab states, that would have been completely irrelevant, so long as the entity that resulted had people, a territory, a government, the capacity to carry on foreign relations. It would be a state, which the State of Israel is. I might add that given that by its terms it was only a recommendation, I'm not sure how much binding legal relevance it has anyway today. It's also true, historically, that if the League of Nations had not entrusted Britain in 1922 with the Mandate of Palestine, charging it with the creation of a homeland for the Jewish people, that it is very likely that we would not have a Jewish state today. And while this is, again, important for the question of borders, it's not important for the question of whether there is a State of Israel. Today, again, Israel has the legal requirements of a state, therefore it is a state, irrespective of the history that preceded its creation. So the real legal questions are not questions of the legitimacy of the existence of Israel. The real legal questions that have to be treated, or that can sensibly be treated under international law, are questions of behavior and treatment. That is, are certain actions carried out by Israel and by other states legal under international law? And is the way Israel is treated by other states legal under international law? Now, we have to understand that because there are no categories of illegitimate states, there are only states and non-states, intrinsically every state has certain inherent rights. States have inherent rights of self-defense. States have inherent rights to determine their own form of governments, to determine their immigration policy, their domestic policy, their foreign policy, etc. Now, there are bounds on the behavior of states in some respects, but written large, the rule is that a state is sovereign over its affairs. So what we have to ask when we ask about the behavior of a state is, within those limited bounds that one has on sovereign states, how can Israel behave and not behave. More importantly is the question of how may a sovereign state be treated. And here because states inherently have certain sovereign rights, there are very important restrictions on the things that other states may do towards states. So, for example, states have inherent rights to defend their sovereignty against encroachments by other states. So, prima facie, an attack on the sovereignty of a state is illegal under international law. When a world leader, a leader of a state, such as Ahmadinejad, declares what appears to be the intent to destroy another sovereign state, that is at least prima facie a violation of Article 2.4 of the UN Charter, which forbids the threat of use of force against other states. So there are important issues to be dealt with regarding the treatment of Israel as if it were an illegitimate state, as if this were a meaningful category, when in fact it's not. Now, that was my conception of the panel. I will allow the panelists to discuss in more detail the questions of the